Hello and welcome to this tutorial on using the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grants website, dtesgrants.vancouverfoundation.ca. This tutorial is geared towards beginners who have some familiarity using online forms. If you have any questions about the process as you move through this tutorial, you are welcome to email or call us using the information at the footer of the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grants website. This tutorial has captions in English and subtitles in French, Spanish, and Simplified Chinese. We also have a text tutorial available in a transcript, which you can find in the information description below this video. Finally, this video has been divided into chapters, which you can use to navigate to learn more about specific sections of the application. You can access the video chapters within the video description text under the video, or by rolling your mouse over the timeline of this video where you'll see chapter breaks and titles. By watching this video or reading the written transcript of this tutorial, you can get a better sense of what to expect and potentially get some of your responses ready before you start using the application online tool. Writing your answers out in a text editor before you start allows you to save your progress, get feedback from your community, or organize your thoughts before you answer fields that are restricted to a certain number of characters. Okay, let's get started. DTESgrants.vancouverfoundation.ca. Creating a new account. When you visit the website, you'll have the opportunity to either start a new account or sign in with an existing account. If you are planning to apply for a group grant, only one person needs to have an account, although each group member will need to fill out the information in the application process. To create a new account, use the fields on the left-hand side of the site under the heading "For First-Time Visitors, Please Register Here" and the bold, all-caps heading "Register." Enter your first name. Enter your last name. If you only have one legal name, repeat your name in the first and last fields. Entering in this information helps to create an official file that will aid you in getting paid if you receive the grant. If you work under another name as an artist or group, you will have a chance to share that in your profile later. Enter your email. Please check that you have entered your email correctly and use an email address that you check regularly. Enter in a password. The system will require you to choose a password that is at least 6 characters, letters, and numbers, and must include one digit, a number between 0 and 9, and one uppercase or capital letter from A to Z. Enter that same password a second time. Click the blue Register button. If your passwords do not match, or your password doesn't contain the required number of characters, letters, or numbers, a red message will appear telling you what needs to be changed or entered differently. Follow the red text message and re-enter your information. Click the blue Register button again to continue. Logging into the system. If you have applied or started to apply for a Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant account in the past, your email will be registered with the system. Use the fields on the right-hand side of the site under the bold, all-caps heading Login and heading that reads "Please log in below if you already have an account." Enter your email in the first field. Enter your password. Before the blue Login button, there is a checkbox that says, "Remember me?" Click this "Remember Me" checkbox if you're using the website from a personal computer that you own. This will cause the website to remember you every time you return to this URL, and you won't have to log in with your password every time. Don't click this if you're using a public or shared computer. Click the blue Login button when you're ready to get started with your application. I forgot my password. If you have forgotten your password, you can click on the blue link on the right bottom side of the page above the footer that reads, "Forgot your password?" Enter your email address in the field and click the blue Submit button. This will send you an email with a link to allow you to reset your password. Click the link in the email you receive and then enter in the same email address and your new password. When your password is reset, you will be logged in. If, when you enter your email, red text that reads, "Email does not exist" appears, it either means you used another email address to create an account in the past, or your account is no longer active and available in the system. You'll want to start over and create a new account. For more information on how to set up a new account, check out the previous chapter in this tutorial. Choosing your application. Depending on the grant that is currently open, when you start your application process, you may have the option to choose either a grant for an individual project or a group project. This chapter's tutorial will focus on the individual project application, but in the chapters that follow, we will review any differences that are unique to the group project application as we go along. On the application selection page, there is blue text that reads, "Applicants are eligible to apply for individual or group projects. Please note that if you apply for an individual grant, you will not be eligible to apply for a group grant, and vice versa." Creating a new application for a project. If you are applying for yourself and for a project that you are working on by yourself as the primary artist, then select the button that reads Create Individual Project Application. If you are applying on behalf of you and your group, and for a project that you are working on with multiple people, then select the button that reads Create Group Project Application. On the following page, a list of terms and conditions are listed. These must be read and agreed to before continuing with your application. For the full list of terms and conditions for both individual and group projects, check out the Terms and Conditions chapter in this tutorial, where each item is read and translated in our available subtitles. At the top of the page, black text reads, "Project plans must comply with public health orders and guidelines to be eligible." Please ask the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Program Coordinator for support if you have questions about this. You can contact the project coordinator by emailing or calling the information available in the footer of the website. Once you have read the terms and conditions, and you agree to them, click the checkbox and click the blue button on the right side of the page marked Accept. If you do not agree to the terms, do not check the checkbox and click the box on the left side of the page marked Decline. This will bring you back to the www.vancouverfoundationsmallarts.ca website and logs you out of the system. After clicking the Accept button, you are brought to the first page of the application form. At the top of this page, there are some important instructions. It reads, "You can move between each page by clicking on Move to Next Page or Go to Previous Page." This is a button that is located at the bottom of each page of the application form. Please use the Print Preview button to verify your application before submitting it. When you get to the Review page, after completing all the fields for the application, an option to preview will allow you to open your application in a new tab and review. We are currently having some issues with our system where leaving the application and logging out causes your application in progress to be locked. You will still be able to preview the work you have done by clicking on the Applications link in the upper black header, but you will not be able to continue your application in progress. To avoid this current bug, please complete the application in a single session or visit our chapter, Troubleshooting the 2021-2022 Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Application. Please print your application for your records. If you do not have access to a printer, you can still download the PDF file that is generated by the system when you complete your application. Print or save your PDF when you have submitted your application. Note: only one individual should work on this online application at a time to make sure that information doesn't get lost. For technical assistance, please email your questions to DTES Small Arts Grants at vancouverfoundation.ca. This tip means that you shouldn't have multiple people or computers logged into your account at the same time. The system will not always save consistently, and as you progress through your application, your information might not be saved. Be sure to log out of your account on any other browsers or computers before continuing to work on your application on your active system or login. Please also attempt to complete your application in a single session. Please note, after you submit your application, you will no longer be able to make changes to it. When filling out the application, make sure to not leave the system open and idle for more than 20 minutes. If you need to leave your application or stop for a while or go do some research before continuing, make sure you log off the system completely using the Log Off button on the top right hand of the application. You can log back in again at dtesgrants.vancouverfoundation.ca to complete your application. Note: there is currently a bug in our system that sometimes will lock applications that have not been completed and are still in progress. If this happens to you, check out our tutorial chapter, Troubleshooting the 2021-2022 Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Application. If possible, please attempt to complete your application in a single session. The application is organized into 4 parts, and the following 4 chapters will review each section in depth. The sections are: 1. The artist and the Downtown Eastside. 2. Your project, what it is and how you'll do it. 3. About the artist. And 4. Support material. For the group application process, an additional note reads: each applicant of a group project is required to independently complete their portion of parts 1 and 3. You do this in the same application. You do not need to start a new application for each group member. We'll talk about this more in the next chapter, The Artist and the Downtown Eastside. Please use the Add Another Applicant button at the bottom of the page to add a co-applicant's information. You will see how this works in the next chapter, The Artist and the Downtown Eastside. A maximum number of 4 people can apply for a group project. Keep watching the tutorial and follow along, or skip to the chapter you need help with by navigating the timeline. If you feel confident that you can answer the application without any help, and you want some information about submitting your completed application, navigate to the Previewing Your Completed Application chapter. The Artist and the Downtown Eastside. Whether you are filling out the application for yourself or on behalf of your group, start by adding all of your information to this first page of the application. Fill out all the information fields, which include your legal first name, your legal last name. This is for our records and to ensure you can get paid. If you have another name or an artist name, or your legal name is in the process of being changed, please still provide us with your current legal name. We are working to add another field where you can provide us with your current and affirming name, and we welcome you to reach out to inform us of the name you use currently for your own safety and well-being. For the sake of being able to pay you, we must collect your legal name. Your residential address. This means a mailing address where you could get mail sent to you, including the street address or P.O. box, the city, limited to addresses in BC, and the postal code. If you don't have a permanent address, you are welcome to use the Carnegie Community Center or Carnegie Outreach as your address. Both addresses can be found by searching online. If you have another service provider who extends their address to you for your mail, then you are absolutely allowed to use that address. If you are successful in getting the grant, you can come and pick up your award checks from the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Coordinator at Carnegie. Your phone number. This is where you can be reached or a message can be left. Email us if you do not have access to a phone number or message service where you can be reached. And your email address. This can be the same email address you used to create your account or one that you check regularly related to your art practice. Do you live in the Downtown Eastside as described by the map below? The map image shows the following boundaries: north, rail yards, and portlands. Do you live south of this boundary? South, Malkin Avenue. Do you live north of Malkin Avenue? West, Richard Street. Do you live east of Richard Street? And east, Clark Drive. Do you live west of Clark Drive? Choose yes or no by clicking one of the round buttons or radio buttons if you live within the area defined by these boundaries. How are you connected to the Downtown Eastside? Choose from the options very connected, connected, a little connected, I don't know, or not connected. The following question gives you a chance to explain what choice you chose. With the question above, what prompted you to check the box that you checked? For example, if you checked connected, how are you connected to the Downtown Eastside? In other words, how would you describe your connection to the Downtown Eastside? This may include attending programs, social activities, volunteer or paid work opportunities, and more. Give us as much detail as possible, but limit your answers to 1,200 characters. What type or types of art does your project include? You can click one or multiple options from the list below. Consider the project you want to fund, not all the types of art making you usually do. If the list of options does not include your art making practice, there is a field where you can describe your art type at the bottom of the list. The list includes beading, cartooning, carving/woodwork, ceramics, fashion or clothing, film, First Nations art, illustration/drawing, jewelry, literary/publishing, mixed media, music, painting, performance, photography, sculpture, and other. You are now at the bottom of the page of the application for the individual application. For group projects, your page 1 continues, but is the same as page 2 for the individual application. Keep watching the tutorial to learn more about the next question on page 1 of the group application. After this question, for the individual application, click on the blue button on the right-hand side to move to the next page. After clicking on this button, your answers so far will be saved. You can now continue filling in the next page. Page 2, the artist and the Downtown Eastside. Continuing to page 2 for the individual application, or page 1 for the group application, we come to the next question. As an emerging artist, please name at least 3 artistic skills and at least 3 professional skills that you would like to develop through your proposed project. Artistic skills are things that help you create your artwork, like shading, perspective, and line drawing for visual artists. Professional skills are things that help you promote yourself and your artwork, like writing, digital literacy, and promotion. In the first column on the left, there are 3 fields where you can list the artistic skills you want to develop. Each field allows for a maximum of 100 characters. Under each field, there is a character count that changes as you type, so you can keep track of how many characters you have left to answer each field. In the right column, there are 3 fields where you can list the professional skills you want to develop. These fields also have a character limit of 100. The following 3 questions are related. For the first 2, have you applied to receive funding from the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant before? And, if so, how many years have you received funding? Choose the option that answers each question best for you by clicking one of the radio or round button options. The answers for whether or not you have received funding are yes or no. And for how many years of funding, the options are none, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 3 years or more. For the next question, if you have received funding before, how did it support you as an emerging artist? Consider the following questions to help you answer the field below. Did you grow as an artist after receiving funding? Did you grow as a person? If you did grow, how would you describe this artistic or personal growth? Why is that important to you? These questions will help you fill out the form. You have 1,200 characters to answer the question, if you have received funding before, how did it support you as an emerging artist? Are you applying for or will you be receiving any other grants for your project? Answer yes or no by clicking on the appropriate round button. If you answer yes, describe which grant or grants you are applying for or are receiving in the next field. Group projects. If you are applying for a group project, you have another step to complete before continuing to the next section of the application. When you are done completing the first page, you will see a red button in the middle bottom between the 2 blue navigation buttons. Click this button to add another group member to your application and fill in all the steps from this past page again with information from your other group members. Repeat this process for each group member. When you add a team member, their application information will appear at the bottom of the page, below the navigation buttons. If you need to edit information for a group member, you can click on these teal buttons and access their information. You can add another applicant by clicking the red button. There is a limit of 4 artists per group application. After this question, click the blue button on the right-hand side to move to the next page. If you need to go back to the previous page, click the blue button on the left-hand side of the page. After clicking on either of these buttons, your answer so far will be saved. You can now continue filling in the next page. You have now completed the first section, the artist and the Downtown Eastside. Let's continue to the next section. Your project, what it is, and how you'll do it. Describe your project. Now is your chance to tell us about what you're going to make and what your project will be. For the questions below, the goal is to describe the actual results of your project, things that can be seen, touched, heard, etc., in as much detail as possible. Remember that you know what your project is, but the jury, the people who will read about your project and choose the project to award funding to, they don't know about your project. You want to give them as much information as you can to help them understand your amazing ideas. But you only have 1,000 characters to do this, so before filling in this next field, consider the following questions when describing your project. What will people see when they look at your project? What will people feel when they touch your project? What will people hear when they listen to your project? What are you going to make? Use any or all of the answers to the questions above to help you describe your project in the available field. Remember, you have 1,000 characters, so start with the most exciting and descriptive parts first. This is an important part of the application, so it gets its own page. After this question, click the blue button on the right-hand side to move to the next page. If you need to go back to the previous page and the previous section, the artist and the Downtown Eastside, click on the blue button on the left-hand side of the page. After clicking on either of these buttons, your answers so far will be saved. You can now continue filling in the next page. Page 2. Your project. What it is and how you'll do it. Creating your timeline for making your project. Now, you will need to tell us how you will do, work on, create, or complete your project. For this question, there is a table with the following headings: month, what will you do, and what will DTES SAG, which stands for Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant, do. The month column shows the month of February down to June 30th. Beside this column are fields associated with each month: February, March, April, May, June, and one extra field labeled June 30th, where you will share what you intend to do or create each month, working towards June when we host the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Group Show Exhibition. The final field beside the label June 30th is associated with the final report that all successful grant applicants will need to fill out and return to the Vancouver Foundation. You might recall there was some information in the Terms and Conditions section of the application that talks about the final report. I'll review this again later in this chapter's video. For the timeline and in each field, the goal is to create a big to-do list by plotting specific tasks that need to be completed at specific times. This is an important question, so answer as fully as possible. Remember, you know how to do your project, but the jury doesn't know how you'll do it. You'll want to give them as much information as possible so they can understand your process, but keep in mind you're limited to 500 characters per field. Group projects. For group projects, consider who will do what each month to help you set goals for each artist in your group. When will you meet to collaborate, practice, share, or combine your work? In the third column of this table, there is a column labeled, "What will the DTES SAG do?" This column helps you plan and understand what support you will receive from the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grants while you work each month. Here's a summary of each month. In the row marked February, share what you plan to do to complete your project. The DTES SAG will distribute checks to the successful applicants this month. In the row marked March, share what you plan to do to complete your project. If you have deposited the check you received in February, you will have funds to do things this month. The DTES SAG will plan to host a networking event for grantees. Depending on the current public health orders in March, there will be an event where successful applicants, or people who have received this year's grant, can meet in person or online. If safe or possible to gather, you will get to meet other artists who are working to make or produce something this year, the support staff from the DTES Small Arts Grants, and any of the people who will assist in creating and installing the group show later in the year. Other community members, such as people from the Vancouver Foundation or the City of Vancouver, may be in attendance. In the row marked April, share what you plan to do to complete your project. The DTES SAG will help successful applicants create artist pages on the Vancouver Foundation website. You'll receive an email with information that will help the Vancouver Foundation create a profile and artist page for you on the website. This email will detail the things that you will need to send, but could include things like your artist statement or a sentence that describes why or what you do. Similarly to the question above on the DTES SAG application that asks you about your project and how you do your work. Where people can reach you, such as an email address, website, or social media account, or some biography, or your story as an artist so far. Also in April, the DTES SAG will host skill-building workshops for successful applicants. These will be available in person or online depending on the current public health orders at the time. Depending on the group of successful applicants, workshops are hosted every year to support you to build assets or things to support your artist practice. Topics like how to write an artist statement, or how to value your artwork, or how to frame your work are examples of workshops we have hosted in the past. If getting specific assistance on a topic that would benefit your art practice is something you already have in mind, you could definitely include it in the field "What will you do?" on the left. In the row marked May, share what you plan to do to complete your project. The DTES SAG will release group show application forms. As a successful applicant, artists will be invited to apply to the group show where they can show the work they have done with the DTES SAG. You will receive the application form and more information about that process. In the row marked June, share what you plan to do to complete and exhibit your project. The DTES SAG will host the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grants Group Show Exhibition. Every year, the group show is hosted at a location in the Downtown Eastside that is accessible to the general public. This is a chance for all successful applicants to show off the work they've been doing. The format for the show will depend on the current public health orders at the time. For more information about previous DTES Small Arts Grants group shows, visit www.vancouverfoundationsmallarts.ca. In the row marked June 30th, share what you plan to do to complete your project and that you will be making time to write and finish your final report. The DTES SAG will collect final reports from successful applicants. You will receive an email or printout to help us gather information about the work you did with your grant money. In the Terms and Conditions section, which you agreed to before you could get to this point in the application, Section 14 stated the following information about final reports. All projects must be completed and final reports submitted by June 30th to complete grant requirements. Not completing the project and/or submitting a final report by June 30th will result in artists being ineligible to reapply the following year. Final reports must include images and/or video of your project presentation. A final report template can be provided. Please ask the program coordinator for support if you have any questions about meeting these requirements. Once you've filled out your timeline, we can move on to the next two questions. Where will you present your project to the public? When will you present your project to the public? If you have a venue, location, or public space in mind for where you wish to install, show, or perform your work when you apply for your grant, include it here. Even if you haven't secured a location or partnership, include where you hope to show your work in these fields. If you hope to apply for the DTES Small Arts Grant Group Show, you can write that in this field too. This is a pretty small field, so list the venues you feel the most confident about. In the next section of the application, where you start thinking about budgets, you'll have a chance to include costs for facility rentals. So, if you were hoping to rent a theater for your performance, or a room to present your artwork, you can reach out to some of the places where you hope to show your work and ask them about rental costs and about availability in the year. It's important to have some idea of where you want to show your work and what's available, so you can budget for these costs, even if you don't end up showing in the exact venue you want. How did you hear about the DTES Small Arts Grant Program? Click all the boxes that answer this question. You can pick multiple options. If you heard about the DTES Small Arts Grant Program from somewhere other than the places listed in this question, there is a field where you can share that with us at the bottom. The list includes Carnegie Newsletter, Heart of the City Festival Program, website, social media, RAC member, poster, and other. After this question, click the blue button on the right-hand side to move to the next page. If you need to go back to the previous page and the previous section, page 1 of your project, what it is and how you will do it, click on the blue button on the left-hand side of the page. After clicking either of these buttons, your answers so far will be saved. You can now continue filling in the next page. Page 3. Your project, what it is, and how you'll do it. Expenses and budget planning. In this section, you'll record how the money you are applying for is going to be used in order to complete your project. The fields in this section help you create a budget that shows how you will pay for your project. Just like the previous two sections, you'll want to provide as much detail as possible, but each field only allows for about 200 characters. Adding information in point form is just fine. The application reads, "Please note that receipts are not necessary. However, you must provide a detailed report. Note, we do not support studio rental or art-making time, etc. Expenses should include taxes and contingencies spent, for example, unforeseen circumstances or costs you are not accounting for within each section below. Do not list all tax and contingency expenses on the other line. These expenses should be throughout your budget." This basically means that you do not want to put a contingency or catch-all line item in your budget that will support all the extra expenses you might not realize or account for at the end. It's better to put a little bit of money aside in each category to allow for overages or fees that you weren't expecting. And don't forget about taxes. Capital and educational costs, $200 or less. The following set of fields are for capital costs and educational costs. Capital costs are items that do not get used up in the process of making art. For example, cameras, carving tools, paintbrushes, etc. Describe these items in the left field. Then put a cost in the right field. Don't forget contingencies and taxes. Educational costs are things like classes, workshops, and learning materials that are related directly to the project. Describe these items in the left field. Then put a cost in the right field. Again, don't forget contingencies and taxes. When you fill out the right-hand column fields for your costs, a total will appear at the bottom of the capital and educational cost section. For individual projects, there is a budget cap or limit for this section of $200. Group projects. For group projects, artists still only get to budget $200 each for capital and educational costs, but it is multiplied by the number of people in your group. So, A group of 2 will have a budget limit of $400, 2 times 200. A group of 3 will have a budget limit of $600, and a group of 4 will have a budget limit of $800. This allows every member in your group to have their own tools and access to education that is necessary for them. Continue filling in the left-hand and right-hand fields for the following budget sections. Professional services, for example, web design, printing, framing, and modeling. Materials, for example, paints, clay, textiles, frames, canvas, and ink. Promotion, for example, posters, flyers, and advertising. Presentation, for example, a solo show, craft fair, and refreshments for a reception. Note, there is a limit on how much money you can assign to your event reception refreshments. Do not go over $100. Facilities rental. If this is relevant to your project and plans, this budget item can support costs of an exhibition space up to $200. Other. Any costs that you don't feel fit into the other budget categories above, you can list these here. Don't forget to be specific and describe these costs, and make sure you have planned for taxes within each of the other budget categories. Once you have filled in all the fields in this section, a number will be added up in the total expenses section. While the DTES Small Arts Grant only provides up to $1,000 in support of individual projects, your project can have a budget of up to $1,500. Make sure your total expenses box does not exceed $1,500. Group projects. Group projects will require a larger budget, and the limits will scale depending on the number of people you have in your group. The blue text beside the total marked Total Expenses will tell you how much your group has as a limit for your project budget. However, artists in group projects still receive the same amount of funding support as individual artists from the DTES SAG, $1,000 per artist. A group of 2 can receive up to $2,000 from the grant, a group of 3 can receive $3,000, and a group of 4 can receive up to $4,000. How much are you asking for from the DTES Small Arts Grant Program? For individual projects, enter an amount up to $1,000 in this field. Even if your expenses are between $1,001 and $1,500, you can only put an amount up to $1,000 in this field. Group projects. For group projects, enter an amount up to $1,000 per artist in this field. A group of 2 with a limit of $2,000, etc. The maximum amount will be updated in the blue text beside the field. The field below, for individual projects, says, if your project total is between $1,001 and $1,500, please share where those funds are coming from. For example, a personal investment or your own money, a sponsor, a loan, etc. You will need to explain where you intend to get the dollars for your budget if your project is going to be more than $1,000 and less than $1,501. Group projects. For group projects, the field below will say, if your project total is more than X, please share where those funds are coming from. X will be a number that is calculated depending on how many people are in your group. You will need to explain where you intend to get the dollars for your budget if your project is going to be more than the DTES SAG will allow. After this question, click the blue button on the right-hand side to move to the next page. If you need to go back to the previous page and the previous section, page 2 of Your Project, What It Is and How You Will Do It, click on the blue button on the left-hand side of the page. After clicking on either of these buttons, your answers so far will be saved. You can now continue filling in the next page. Let's continue to the next section. About the artist. The following questions in this section are optional. You are not required to answer them, and leaving them blank is allowed. However, your answers in this section are important to us. We want to understand the lives of our artists, but these answers will not affect your grant application, even if you leave them all blank or fill them all out. For group projects, there is an opportunity for every member of your group to answer if they want to or not. We will use this information to ensure applicants represent the diversity of our community. For individual projects, fill in the information you want to give. Your information can help us to improve our granting process. The information is confidential and for our use only. For group projects, start by filling in your information first, then click on the teal button, either at the top of the page or bottom of the page, associated with the other artist in your group that you set up in the first section of the application. Here are the questions in this section. Number 1. Age range. Choose which age group you belong to, or skip to the next question if you don't want to share your age. The choices are listed as 13 to 17, 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 55 to 64, 65 to 74, 75 and older. Number 2. Gender. Choose your gender identity or skip to the next question if you don't want to share your gender identity. The choices are listed as male, female, or please enter your preferred term here. In the open section, we acknowledge that any information you put here is not a preference but represents your actual identity. (3A) Were you born in Canada? Answer yes or no, or skip to the next question if you don't want to answer. Question 3B. How long have you lived and/or worked in the Downtown Eastside? Share how long you have lived or worked in the Downtown Eastside, or skip this question if you don't live or work in the Downtown Eastside, or you don't want to answer. The choices are listed as less than 1 year, 1 to 5 years, or 5 years or more. 3C. Please select which best describes your current housing situation. Share what kind of housing in which you regularly find shelter. The options are homeowner, renter, co-op, shared housing, or temporary shelter. If none of these answers best describe your current housing situation, you can answer in the field below, or you can skip to the next question if you don't want to answer. 4A. Do you identify as an Indigenous person? If yes, share which of the following identities apply to you. If none of the answers matches your identity, you can answer in the field below, or you can skip to the next question if you don't want to answer, or you are not Indigenous. The options are First Nations, Métis, Inuit, or other. 5. What is your preferred language of communication? Share which language you prefer to communicate in. If your preferred language is not listed here, please share it in the field below, or skip this question if you don't want to answer. The options listed are English, French, Spanish, Punjabi, Mandarin, Cantonese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, or other. Group projects. If you are submitting a group project, don't forget to offer the chance to each of your group members to fill out this section if they want to, and add their information by clicking their name on the teal buttons at the top and bottom of this page. If your group members do not wish to add their information, You can navigate to the next page. After you have reviewed all the questions, click the blue button on the right-hand side to move to the next page. If you need to go back to the previous page and the previous section, page 3 of your project, what it is and how you do it, click on the blue button on the left-hand side of the page. After clicking on either of these buttons, your answers so far will be saved. You can now continue filling in the next page. Let's continue to the next section. Support materials. You are required to include support materials as part of your application. These can be included with your online application in the section below or emailed to dteesartsgrants@gmail.com or dropped off at the Carnegie. If you are going to drop off your support materials to the Carnegie, please email dteesartsgrants@gmail.com for drop-off instructions before you visit the Carnegie with your materials. Dropping off your work in person. If you are dropping off support materials after it has been confirmed and you have received your drop-off instructions by email, it is important you understand that 1. Anything you drop off will not be returned to you. Do not submit originals that you need back. A picture of an original, a sketch, or a photocopy are all good examples of support material, but do not submit original work that you want back. 2. You must label everything you drop off. At the very least, make sure your name and DTES SAG is somewhere on your support materials. Written on the back of paper or with a stapled note is okay, but it must be secure and not loosely attached. CDs and DVDs should have your name and information written on the discs. Envelopes that contain your support information should have your name and information on the outside and written on the envelope. Digital USB keys need to be labeled. If you submit support materials without labeling them, they may not be considered as part of your support material. You can submit video links using YouTube or Vimeo, but no other links will be accepted. If you have images, you can send them by email. No Facebook links will be accepted and will not be considered support materials. Download any materials you want to use from your social media first, and then send them as support materials within an email or upload them to your application using the forms below. Visual artists. A visual artist is anyone who creates 2D or 3D works, such as photographers, painters, illustrators, sculptors, or textile and costume artists. You should send us 3 separate images of work you have completed or are working on that shows your artwork. To send pictures of your visual work, send 3 digital images as 3 separate files in a JPEG or PDF format, with each file not exceeding 2 megabytes within the form below or by email. Rename your photo files, the file name, to include your name and the title of the work. An example would be name_title.jpg or Smith_Wonderland scene. For paper applications or support materials you bring in person, prints or photocopies no larger than 8.5 inches by 11 inches will be accepted, and each needs to be labeled with a title and your name. Videographers. A videographer is anyone who creates videos, movies, short films, or animations. All 3 of your support material videos must not exceed 10 minutes. So one video can be 7 minutes, the second can be 1 minute, and the third can be 1.5 minutes. Or all 3 could be 3 minutes each. But altogether, your samples must not run for longer than 10 minutes to watch all 3. Video files must be attached as YouTube or Vimeo links. You can sign up for a free account on both YouTube and Vimeo if you don't have an account. If you are dropping off your support materials in person, after having received drop-off instructions from Carnegie, a PC-compatible DVD or a USB flash drive are accepted, but must be labeled with your name. Note: please submit work created or completed within the past 5 years. Musicians. A musician is someone who makes music, writes music, composes music, or performs music. Please submit 3 recorded original songs with lyrics and/or charts, the musical notation, in your submission materials. Audio files should be submitted as MP3 or as YouTube or Vimeo links. You can upload audio-only files to YouTube and Vimeo. If you are dropping off support materials in person, after having received drop-off instructions from Carnegie, a PC-compatible CD, DVD, or a USB flash drive are accepted, but must be labeled with your name. Note: please share promotional materials such as posters or advertising, as well as any images of performances as support material. Writers. A writer is someone who writes stories, nonfiction, articles, books, poetry, and original texts. Support material should be at least 1,000 words, but for poetry, you can send 10 poems or 500 words of poetry, whichever is less. For text files, please upload either a PDF or Microsoft Word file. If you are dropping off your support materials in person, after having received drop-off instructions from Carnegie, photocopies of manuscripts, screenplays, chapbooks, or poetry are welcome. Please also include a list of places where you have been seen or published. Performers. A performer is somebody who publicly acts or moves in a venue or space that can be viewed by others. You could be a dancer, a clown, an actor, or a performance artist. Please submit a list of places where you have performed and provide any YouTube or Vimeo links of your recorded performances as support materials. Uploading your support materials. It is very important that while you are uploading your files to the DTES SAG application form online, that you do not refresh the page or press the back button. Your supporting documents and material will not be completely uploaded or may fail to upload altogether. In the fields below, you can attach any .jpg, .png, .pdf, Microsoft Word files, and/or a list of support materials appropriate to your artist practice. If you have any links to YouTube or Vimeo, you can copy and paste those links in the fields below this section. When you have received confirmation that the system has your support materials, click the blue button on the right-hand side to move to the next page. If you need to go back to the previous page and the previous section about the artist, click on the blue button on the left-hand side of the page. After clicking on either of these buttons, your answers so far will be saved. You can now continue filling in the next page. Let's continue to the next section. Review. When you arrive at the review page, the DTES SAG system will check to make sure all fields and information they need to submit and review your application are complete. If there are sections that the system has flagged, navigate back to the sections you need to complete by clicking on the links. If the system has collected all your information, you will have the option to subscribe to the DTES SAG mailing list and to confirm that you feel that you've finished with each section of the application. Under the heading marked Mailing List Consent, you have the chance to check the box beside your name to receive email information about the DTES SAG by email. This will include event information and might not be specific to your project, but will keep you informed of what's going on during the coming year. For group projects, each member of your group will have the chance to give their consent to receive mailing updates from the DTES SAG. Under the mailing list consent is a list of checkboxes to ensure you have completed all information as accurately and completely as possible. If you feel ready to proceed, check each of the boxes. Previewing your completed application. If your review shows that your application is ready to submit, you will have the option to open a preview of the application, as it will be sent to the DTES SAG coordinator and the selection jury. You can do this by clicking the blue preview button on the lower right side of the page. A new tab will open where you will have a chance to review what has been captured in your submission and ensure that you haven't missed anything, or accidentally put incorrect information, and that your support materials were fully uploaded. When you're done checking, you can close the new tab and come back to the review page. If you need to go back and change something, click the button on the left bottom side of the screen that says Return to Application. It will return you to the first page where you can go through and make any changes or corrections. Navigate back to the review page when you're done. Submitting your completed application. Once you have previewed and reviewed your submission to ensure it's accurate and complete, click the large red button in the center of the screen that says Submit. Returning to the application page via the white link in the black header bar on the left will show you your completed form. A PDF of the application will be generated, and you can print that out or save it to your computer to have a backup copy while your application is being processed. The website will tell you when to expect to hear back from the DTES SAG with updates and whether or not you were successful in your grant application. Congratulations! You have gone through the entire application process. In the following chapters, we'll review a few troubleshooting quirks of the current system and read out the terms and conditions of the application for you to review. If you have any questions as you navigate through the application, check out the relevant chapters in this tutorial or in our transcript, or email us at dtesmallartsgrants@vancouverfoundation.ca. Good luck, and we look forward to seeing your projects. Troubleshooting the 2021-2022 DTES SAG application form. Saving and single-session applications. It is a recognized and ongoing issue that the system is not allowing people to save and continue their application form after logging out. Occasionally, the system will not provide a way for you to access an application in progress. We apologize for this inconvenience and frustration. The current way to get around this is to open your in-progress application, which opens as a new tab. Navigate back to the main site and start a new application form. Going back and forth between the two tabs, copy the information you have already started in the previous in-progress application until you get to the point where you can continue with the open and accessible application. If possible, continue in the same session without logging out to complete your application. If it happens again, repeat the steps above. We are working to fix this and upgrade our system as soon as possible. Terms and conditions. Individual projects. 2021-2022 Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Application Terms and Conditions. Please read the following terms and conditions before completing your application. Project plans must comply with public health orders and guidelines to be eligible. Please ask the DTES Small Arts Grant Program Coordinator for support if you have any questions about this. 1. Applicants must demonstrate an original art practice. Artists are required to submit a sample of their work. 2. Preference will be given to applicants who have neither received nor applied for government funding within the past 3 years. For example, BC Arts Council, Canada Council, or Creative BC. 3. Preference will be given to new projects or those applicants who have been funded for fewer than 3 years in a row. 4. Artists must present their work to the public. Artists are required to acknowledge funders as part of that presentation. Possible wording includes, "This project was, partially, funded by the DTES Small Arts Grant Program and Vancouver Foundation," or "The artist appreciates funding received from the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Program and Vancouver Foundation." Contact the coordinator for approved logos. 5. Grants are not intended to pay for food or rent, personal or studio. You cannot pay yourself a salary. However, you may hire others to help you achieve the goals of your project. For example, web designers, printers, actors, lighting technicians, recording engineers. 6. Please note, we generally do not support community projects or celebrations, although there are certain exceptions. For example, if an artist is developing a dance piece for a certain celebration. Review Vancouver Foundation's grant criteria, as your project may be eligible for funding through different programs. A. Neighborhood Small Grants, or B. Greenest City Neighborhood Small Grants. 7. You may build educational costs and capital costs into your project budget. The sum of both may not exceed $200. Educational costs include things such as taking a course or purchasing instructional materials. 8. A capital cost must be directly related to a proposed project. A capital cost is a one-time purchase of a necessary item or equipment that will be used for this and future art projects and does not get used up, like paint or clay, in the process of making the art. A grinder or a camera would be an example of a capital cost. The sum of your capital costs plus your educational costs must not exceed $200. 9. Artists must have a contact phone number with voicemail and be working towards having their own email addresses for online communication. 10. Artists applying for their third grant are required to develop a web page on the Vancouver Foundation smallarts.ca website. 11. Artists may apply for one DTES Small Arts Grant per year. If you apply for an individual grant, you are not eligible to also apply for a group grant, and vice versa. Artists applying for more than one grant will be disqualified. 12. Grants are for art projects that begin after the grant decision is made, January, and complete by December 31st. Grants may not be used for retrofunding. For example, if the event date is in February of the grant year, artist is not eligible for funding. 13. Artwork must follow acceptable community standards. DTES Small Arts Grant do not support works that exploit an individual's vulnerability. For example, when photographing, consider, would I like to be documented in this situation? 14. All projects must be completed and final reports submitted by June 30th to complete grant requirements. Not completing the project and/or submitting a final report by June 30th will result in artists being ineligible to reapply the following year. Final reports must include images and/or video of your project presentation. A final report template can be provided. Please ask the project coordinator for support if you have questions about meeting these requirements. Yes, I have read and accept the terms and conditions before I apply for the DTES Small Arts Grant Program. Group projects. 2021-2022 Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Group Application. Please read the following terms and conditions before completing your application. Project plans must comply with public health orders and guidelines to be eligible. Please ask the DTES Small Arts Grant Program Coordinator for support if you have questions about this. 1. Applicants must demonstrate an original art practice. Each group member will be required to submit a sample of their work. 2. Groups will need to clearly demonstrate the role of each artist within the project and how their project will be developed and showcased collaboratively. 3. Preference will be given to those applicants who have neither received nor applied for government funding within the past 3 years, for example, BC Arts Council, Canada Council, or Creative BC. 4. Group projects must be presented to the public. The project funder will need to be acknowledged. Possible wording includes, this project was, partially, funded by the DTES Small Arts Grant Program and Vancouver Foundation, or the artists appreciate funding received from the DTES Small Arts Grant Program and Vancouver Foundation. Contact the coordinator for approved logos. 5. Grants are not intended to pay for food, rent, or studio rent. Artists cannot pay themselves a salary. However, they may hire others to help them achieve the goals of their project. For example, web designers, printers, actors, lighting technicians, recording engineers. 6. Artists may build capital costs directly related to the proposed project into their group budget. A capital cost is a one-time purchase of a necessary item or equipment that will be used for this and future art projects and does not get used up, like paint or clay, in the process of making the art. A grinder or a camera would be an example of a capital cost. Capital costs may not exceed $200 per group member. 7. Preference will be given to new projects or those applicants who have been funded for fewer than 3 years in a row. 8. Group members may develop a web page on the Vancouver Foundation smallarts.ca website to showcase their projects. They must have a contact phone number with voicemail and be working towards having their own email addresses for online communication. 9. Please note, if you apply for an individual grant, you will not be eligible to apply for a group grant and vice versa. Artists applying for more than one grant will be disqualified. 10. The grants are for art projects that begin after the grant decision is made in January, and projects are expected to end by June 30th. Projects will not be retro-funded. 11. Your artwork must follow acceptable community standards. DTES small arts grants do not support works that exploit an individual's vulnerability. For example, when photographing, ask yourself, would I like to be photographed or videotaped in this situation? 12. All projects must be completed and your group's final report submitted by June 30th in order to be eligible to reapply the following year. Final reports must include images and/or video of your project presentation. Yes, I have read and accept the terms and conditions before I apply for the Downtown Eastside Small Arts Grant Program.